LinkedIn into the picture. Okay, so we're live streaming. Don't know if anyone will show up. It's a little after 4:30 Central Time where I'm at on a Friday afternoon, and I wanted to talk about podcasting today. And so, if you feel free to leave a comment, if you, especially if you see me on LinkedIn, drop a comment so I can see if that is working because I've only just recently started live streaming to LinkedIn. I've live streamed to YouTube for quite a while, and I'm starting to do the TikTok thing, and that seems to be working really good. So, hi to everyone that's on TikTok there. Leave a comment or question if you have one. So, I want to talk about podcasting today. And so, I was at a wake service this afternoon for a friend of mine, a young lady. I think she was 26. Died way too early from cancer, brain cancer, I think is what she had. She was a friend of mine. I met her at the CrossFit gym that I work out at. She actually became one of the coaches there, and we often worked out at the same time of day. And so I went to her wake service, and I was talking to her husband. They only recently got married, and he's also a good friend of mine, and we work out together. And as I was getting ready for her, you know, I was in the line, gonna go up and give my respects to her husband. I was seeing all the pictures and stuff, and she was a young woman, so a lot of it is, pictures from high school and college. She was a very, very bright, attractive young woman. I think valedictorian of her college class, and just had all the potential in the world and had so much life to live. And she got the diagnosis of her cancer came, I think, maybe a couple years ago. And I think when they diagnosed it, they knew kind of right away that it was not curable, and they were going to try to manage it as best they could. And they were trying some experimental medications, but unfortunately, none of those worked. And so she did pass away peacefully, fortunately, but much too early. And I was looking, one of the things that was they had at this wake service was a puzzle that she had put together with her husband just a few weeks ago before she passed away. And he said it was really hard for her to do it. I think because I just I think she was getting weak and her mind was becoming a little more labored. But she finished this puzzle, and they framed it, and he made her sign the corner. And that will be one of the legacies that he will keep, I'm sure, for a long time. They didn't have any children, but that was kind of part of her legacy. And I got to thinking to myself, like, what's my legacy? Um, I'm I, I love practicing law. It's very much an identity of mine, but something that I it's not really something that I identify with, or at least that's not what I want my legacy to be. Um, my legacy is gonna be my family. So I have 9 kids, um, ranging in age from 22 down to 3. So that's gonna be my legacy, hopefully. And you know, one of the things I got to thinking about, I like to leave something for my kids. And one of the things I've often wanted to write a book, but it's gosh darn hard to write a book. It takes a lot of time. Um, and so I've been thinking about doing a podcast, more so just kind of a reflection, just stories from my childhood, stories from when I was a young dad, and taking care of our kids and everything in between. Um, it's something I might do, and it's something that I think maybe more people should consider doing because it's so easy to do. I'll talk a little bit about like podcasting logistics a little bit if people are interested in that. But so I want to, I guess, find out from people: is there anyone here, anyone on the stream that has a podcast? If you have a podcast, let me know. Just say podcast in the comments or whatever. I I have a podcast that I've had for a while. I've had a number of podcasts, mostly failures. One has been very successful. I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But sometimes I wonder, are there too many podcasts? Seems like everyone has a podcast these days. And is a podcast more for personal, or is it for profit? Is it a business focused one, or is it more for general interest? Um, what are people using podcast for? Is anyone interested in a podcast? Does anyone think they would like to do so? And if so, kind of why? What would you talk about? What would you talk about in your podcast, and why is it important to you? I think those are questions that people need to ask, and drop them in the chat if you have an answer to those. But so I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about my my podcasting journey. So it's very funny. So I record a podcast here every Wednesday morning, very early, with a close friend of mine. It's funny because I was moving some stuff around. I was cleaning this office out when I came across something. I didn't even think about it. Let me see here. Yeah, this is a McDonald's receipt, and it's I don't know why I kept it, but it's dated February 8th, 2023, so almost exactly 3 years ago. Um, and I had this idea for a podcast for a long time. Kind of went out in search of one. I didn't see anyone really talking about it, and I kind of by happenstance I started talking about the topic with a friend of mine, more of an acquaintance at the time, and he's like, "I think you should. I think we should." And so we decided to start a podcast. So this was kind of the beginning. This lunch was we started to plan, and we didn't know what the heck we were doing when we started. We I had made some YouTube videos, and I had some experience being on camera with my practice. I'd given some TV interviews and things like that, but I didn't know the first thing about podcasting, editing, and all that, other than I knew that we wanted to do this. So we kind of started out very rough. I start We bought our first mic, which was a Blue Yeti mic. I still have it somewhere. And I just recorded on Zoom because I knew how to use Zoom. And we shared it. It was pretty cumbersome because we couldn't have two mics because I didn't know what audio mixers were. So we just literally shared a mic, and the audio quality wasn't great for either one of us, but we kind of put the mic in between of us. Um, and we started talking. We started recording videos. We actually started kind of two or three times a week early on. Now we do it once a week. I was just looking at my data the other day. So we it took us about a year to get real traction. Like, so we literally recorded twice a week, sometimes a little more, for well over 6 months, 6 months to a year, before we really got anyone that even knew we were alive. And it's kind of a secret podcast. We use fake names. And so it wasn't something we were really promoting. So it truly was an organically driven podcast. And about a year in, we started to get some traction. And so right now, I just checked my metrics. So we're just about 3 years into this. We have 320 episodes, 760 YouTube subscribers. We have a very active Discord community, which has really been cool. A lot of people have come out of the woodwork from around the world to talk to us, to share things that are kind of important but sort of sensitive. So we started this podcast, and I really think if I accomplish nothing else in this world other than my children, that podcast might be my legacy. That might be that literally one of the greatest things that I've ever done. And it was hard to do because we didn't know if it would work, and we literally didn't know if anyone would listen. And for close to a year, no one did listen, right? But we had each other, and we kept coming. We're like, we know this is important, and so we started talking about it. And I get emails almost every week from people who have said thank you to us for starting this podcast. And so I want to really encourage people, if you've ever had an idea, especially if you don't see anyone else out there talking about it, maybe start a podcast. And now I mentioned that we use fictitious names. I'm on camera, but I'm kind of like obscured. I use a fake name. My buddy is not on camera at all. You could literally do this without being on camera at all if you wanted to, if that's something that's important to you. But you can start very small, very simple. Like I said, we just started with a Yeti mic, Zoom, and my laptop, and I would just upload them to YouTube. And then we eventually got in and we started uploading to Spotify and Apple and all that. And it's worth doing, even if no one listens to it. I think it's worth, you know, leaving your story for the world a little bit. So I really encourage people to maybe think about doing a podcast. Now, I will say a few things if you're thinking about it, and this is true whether it's for personal or profit, right? It needs to be something that you're very passionate about, something that you could get up and and commit yourself to recording week in and week out, whether anyone listens to it, because the reality is no one's going to listen to it for a while, maybe not for a long while. So don't pick a topic because you think people want to hear about it. Pick a topic that you're passionate about, that you care about, and that you want to sort of leave a story, whether anyone listens to it now or not. Um, do you want to do a video versus audio? Now, when I started podcasting about 3 years ago, everything was audio podcasts, and in fact, I was planning to do an audio podcast, but I was kind of overwhelmed and frustrated by trying to figure out the technology behind it. It seemed like you had to like have a website and you had to have some hosting service, and then it would send it to Apple and Spotify, and it was all this complicated complicated process. I'm like, what the hell is this? I had already been on YouTube for a little while, and I could literally just upload videos to YouTube. So I said, well, I'm just going to start uploading to YouTube. I don't think YouTube even had the podcast option at that point in time. And all it took is me being okay being on camera, right? And it just took off, and it's so easy. And I think if you're going to start a podcast, unless you have a really good reason not to, I think you want to start out in video and get yourself on YouTube, start that podcast, and then post it to Spotify and Apple and all those other things. You can post the video to Spotify. People can watch the video or listen to audio, whatever they want, and then it will automatically extract the audio and send it over to um, Apple Podcast and all the other ones. If people can listen to it there. So it's it's actually not that complicated. If anyone is sort of interested in learning how to do it, just let me know. Um, but that was kind of how I started, and that kind of morphed into like, okay, maybe I can do more video. Maybe I can do a live stream. And I remember the first live stream, I was scared to death, and then it's just like, oh, now I really enjoy live streaming, and I do it pretty regularly. So, I think podcasting is for people, you get to a point where you kind of want to leave something. I think maybe it's a good alternative to a book, or maybe it's a precursor to a book, or use a podcast and like just verbalize and record all of your stories and ideas, and then use AI to take the transcripts and kind of, put together a book for you. It's your content, it's your stories, your ideas. You're just getting a little help. So I think talking in front of a camera, talking in front of a microphone can really make it easier for you to do that into the future. Um, so one thing I want to ask about, and I put this over on LinkedIn, and I'm not sure if anyone responded yet, but so obviously Joe Rogan is the king of podcasts, and And most of us, I assume all of us, will never get to that level. But there are a lot of, really great podcasts out there, and they kind of monetize it by getting an audience and getting to a certain size. But I think the question is like, can you use podcasts, and are people using podcasts effectively for more of a profit, either as a side hustle itself or as a way to spread awareness of their business, of your brand, and how does that look? Because that's something that I have not yet figured out myself, and I don't know if it will work for me. As a personal injury attorney, you know, people aren't really consuming my content unless they really need me right now, like if they've been in an accident. So I don't know if a podcast necessarily is going to be very good at attracting people to me, that are going to be my clients, but it may actually be an effective way for me to build awareness with other attorneys or doctors, people that might want to refer cases to me because of the special expertise that I have, or vice versa. I think I've seen a lot of attorneys attempt, I'm not sure whether they're successful or not, but use podcast for what we call that B2B marketing, lawyer to lawyer as opposed to B2C, lawyer to client. But I think all of us, are looking for an option, as many opportunities as possible to reach our ideal client, because that's advertising is very expensive and very competitive. And so I think a lot of people, myself included, are like, well, is there a podcasting option for me? And can I use it to improve my business, to find clients? Now, I think one question that I don't know the answer to might be, with the rise of AI and the increasing way that people are using AI for searching, you know, does having a podcast on a subject, even if like literally no one watches it, no one listens to it, does that provide evidence of authority and expertise that the LLM models might use to, promote you or recommend you? That I don't know. If people know the answer to that, I'd like to know that. But it can't hurt, other than your time. So those are things that I've been kind of thinking about and working through. I'm always trying to get better. One of the things that I really harp on when I in my whether it's podcasting content or just video content is people. I think too many people get hung up on trying to be perfect and doing a lot of editing. That was one thing I said. I don't have time to dink around with a lot of editing. So I'm going to record my video, and and if I screw something up, I'll go back and I'll fix it somehow. But basically I record and I post. Maybe trim off the beginning while I'm getting going, and I'll trim off the end or something. But the editing is the thing I think too many people feel like they have to do, and they got to add logos and music and intros and outros. Um, I think I would be very cautious about that, especially when you're starting out, because if people don't know who you are, that first second or two is all makes all the difference. And if you're going into an intro, they're probably not going to stick around past the intro. And if they do, well, then you need to get to your point. So one of the things that I've done in my podcasting that seems to have made a difference is when we record an episode, we we record it on Riverside is the program we use now, but you can use any program, and it provides you with shorts and reels. And I look for the one, that zinger, that kind of highlight moment that kind of captures what that episode is about, and then we actually throw that at the beginning of it. Then we go to our intro. It's a short intro, music, logo, and then we go into the video. So if you want to use intros, if you feel like you just got to have an intro, strongly encourage you to grab a sound bite, a clip. It may only be 4 or 5 seconds, but that first couple of seconds of it has to be good. But put that at the beginning of your video so that the new person that stumbles upon your video, your podcast, and clicks on it, that you're going to captivate their attention. That's what you got to do. You got to get them to stick around long enough to, listen. You can have the greatest podcast in the world, but if people don't stick around more than a few seconds or a few minutes, it's all for naught. So that's kind of my advice to you. People have questions about podcasting, how to start, what to do, tech, software, and I've gotten pretty sophisticated now. Um, over here you can't see it, but I'm using the Rode Video, um, which is both our audio and video mixers, so we can have different cameras and we can pull in, iPad content and put it into the stream. And have a you can't see it here. I have a good XLR mic here, but you don't have to start that way. It's kind of something you kind of build up to it. But if people have questions about it, save yourself a lot of grief and searching around, and just drop me a comment if you have questions, or send me a message or whatever on TikTok, or go and send me an email. I'll be happy to try to respond to you. So I hope that was helpful. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I hope people enjoyed this. I'm going to typically live stream most weekdays around 4:30 to 5 o'clock, and I'll try to do that for 20 to 30 minutes most every day if my schedule permits. So if people have any questions regarding like video, making video, editing video, podcasting, cameras, mics, things like that, I'm by no means the expert of all those things, but I have been I've tried a lot of things. I found things that worked. I found things that were mistakes and waste of money, and I'll be happy to share that with anybody that's interested. And so appreciate everyone watching, and until next time, everyone, have a good one.